Okay, something really weird is happening in the real estate market. We're seeing sales numbers hit a historic low, which should mean chaos for agents, right? But the agents who make a living off those sales, they're not going anywhere. So today, we're going to dig into this paradox and figure out what's really going on.
It all kicks off with this number right here, 4 million. For 3 straight years, that's been the magic number for existing home sales. And let's be crystal clear, that is not a sign of a healthy market. It's a deep freeze. You can feel the chill everywhere.
And to really get your head around just how slow this is, you gotta rewind the clock. Way back. When you adjust for how many people live in the US today, this is the slowest homes have changed hands since the early 1980s. I mean, this isn't just a slump. We are talking about a generational slowdown.
But okay, here is the twist. In a market this frozen, you'd expect real estate agents to be running for the exits. Instead, a staggering 92% say they're staying put. Now think about that. In a business that's all about commission, with so few commissions to go around, why is almost no one leaving?
That's the billion-dollar question we're tackling. Why are agents digging in their heels in such a brutal market? Well, the answer completely defies all those predictions about a mass exodus. So let's get into it. First up, let's bust the Great Commission myth. You know, the widespread prediction was that new industry rules were going to slash agent paychecks across the board. But what's actually happening on the ground? Well, it tells a very, very different story.
Get a load of this. This is what agents are actually reporting, and it's pretty stunning. 2/3, a huge majority, say their commissions haven't changed at all. The great pay cut that everyone was bracing for, it just hasn't happened for most people. Only a tiny 5% have seen a really significant drop.
Now, that doesn't mean it's all sunshine and roses. The money might be the same, but boy, the work to get it has gotten way harder. About 1/3 of agents are feeling the squeeze when it comes to buyer-side pay, and just as many are facing tougher, more grueling negotiations with sellers. They're having to prove their value like never before.
And here's where the story completely flips on its head. I mean, check this out. Not only are commissions not falling, but this data shows the average total commission is actually projected to rise. This just flies in the face of the whole struggling agent narrative, and it suggests the pros are adapting and actually commanding higher fees.
All this pressure, it's forcing some big changes inside the industry, which brings us to our next major point of tension: off-market listings. It's a strategy that has the entire industry and all its data completely split down the middle.
So what are we talking about here? A private listing network, or PLN, is basically an exclusive club. It's where a brokerage shows a new house to its own private network of clients first before it ever hits the public market, or sometimes instead of hitting it altogether. And agents? They are skeptical, to say the least. More than half just do not like these private networks. And you can see why, right? It kind of goes against the core mission of their job, which is to get a property in front of as many eyeballs as possible to drive up the price. These private networks do the exact opposite.
And wow, this slide just perfectly captures the whole fight. You've got two industry titans, Zillow and Compass, looking at the exact same practice and drawing completely opposite conclusions. Zillow's data says sellers lose thousands of bucks. Compass, a huge player in these private networks, says their sellers win big. It's a total data deadlock, and it really highlights how deep the divisions are on this.
Okay, next up, let's talk about another massive force that's reshaping the industry: consolidation. In this tough, low-volume market, we're seeing these giant brokerages and bigger MLS systems just gobbling up the smaller players. The whole field is shrinking. But you have to ask, is bigger actually better for the agents on the front lines?
So how do agents feel about this trend? Well, for most of them, it's kind of just background noise. Over half are totally neutral. But for the ones who do feel an impact, it is overwhelmingly negative. They feel like they're getting squeezed out as the big fish get even bigger.
And where you work really matters. It is not the same story everywhere, not by a long shot. Agents in the Southwest, for example, are massively negative about all this consolidation. But then you look at the Southeast, and they're more likely than anyone else to actually see a positive side to these mergers. Wildly different takes.
So, despite all this change, all this pressure and consolidation, one thing remains the absolute center of the universe for this profession: the multiple listing service, or MLS. It's the backbone of the entire industry, but agents have some, let's say, strong opinions about what it should and shouldn't be doing.
The support for the MLS is definitely there. 2/3 of agents say it's valuable. But, and this is a big but,
That support is not unconditional. When you dig in, you find this growing frustration. Agents love the core job of the MLS, but they feel like it's totally failing to give them the modern tools they actually need to compete.
And agents are very, very clear about what works and what doesn't. They love the core stuff, the huge database, the scheduling tools, the market data, total hits. But when it comes to modern business tools, huge miss. Nearly 3/4 say the CRM, the customer relationship management tools, are basically useless. The message is loud and clear. Stick to the basics and get them right.
And this number right here is the bottom line. Only 14% of agents feel like their MLS gives them the whole toolkit. That's not just a small gap, people. That is a chasm. It shows that agents are pretty much on their own when it comes to finding the tech they need to survive in this market. So, after looking at the commissions, the internal fights, and the tools of the trade, what does all this tell us about the future of the American real estate agent? Is this a profession that's on the brink of collapse?
Well, the big takeaway here isn't extinction, it's adaptation. Agents aren't packing it in, they're digging in. They are learning how to navigate a market that has fewer deals and way more pressure. They're fighting harder in negotiations and finding new ways to prove their value. Because right now, that's what it takes to survive.
And that leaves us with one final big thought. The data says the agent is here to stay. For now. They've adapted to survive today's challenges, but the long-term question is still hanging out there. In an industry that's consolidating and becoming more centralized and tech-driven every single day, what does the role of an agent even look like in 5 or 10 years? That's the answer we're all still waiting for.